Welcome to our comprehensive video, where we illuminate 5 fascinating legal battles adjudicated by the distinguished Associate Justice Mario Lopez. Renowned for chairing the 2024 bar's examinations, Justice Lopez's judicial acumen is evident in his handling of over 150 complex cases. Today's focus on these 5 cases offers a profound understanding of the nuances and pivotal decisions in Philippine jurisprudence, essential for aspiring lawyers and legal enthusiasts alike. 1. Clark Development Corporation vs. Association of CDC Supervisory Personnel Union. This case delves into the intricate legalities of government employment and collective bargaining, questioning the validity of certain terms and the extent of presidential approval in renegotiations. 2. Oligario Turalba y Villegas vs. People of the Philippines. An enthralling analysis of the criminal justice system's approach to the insanity defense, set against the backdrop of a carnapping conviction. 3. Employed International Corporation vs. Mike A. Pinmiliu et al. A critical examination of the challenges faced by overseas Filipino workers, spotlighting issues of illegal dismissal and the pursuit of justice in foreign lands. 4. Employed International Corporation and Pamela T. Miguel vs. Mike A. Pinmiliu et al. A deeper investigation into the plight of these workers, addressing the dire conditions and legal implications of their employment and subsequent dismissal. 5. Felix Chinco and Rosita Chinco vs. Faustino Chinco and Gloria Chinco. A captivating family feud over property rights, probing the legal sanctity of notarized documents and the true intentions behind contractual agreements. These cases not only reflect the legal prowess of Justice Lopez but also serve as a vital resource for those preparing for the bar exams. To gain further insights into Philippine law and enhance your legal knowledge, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Join us as we unravel more legal complexities and guide you through your bar exam preparations with engaging and informative content. Subscribe now for a journey into the heart of Philippine law.
Is the renegotiated collective bargaining agreement, CBA, granting additional benefits to supervisory employees, valid in light of the moratorium imposed by Executive Order No. 7 and the Government-Owned and Controlled Corporations, GOCC, Governance Act of 2011? This is the case entitled Clark Development Corporation, Petitioner and Governance Commission for GOCCs, Government-Owned and Controlled Corporations, versus Association of CDC Supervisory Personnel Union, GR number 207853. March 20, 2022.
This is case 31 out of 160 cases decided by Associate Justice Mario Lopez, 2024 Philippine Bar Examination. Subscribe to receive more reviewers based on the 2024 bar syllabus.
Facts of the case. On March 20, 2012, Clark Development Corporation, CDC, an arm of the Bases Conversion Development Authority managing the Clark Special Economic Zone, renegotiated a CBA with its Supervisory Employees Union, the Association of CDC Supervisory Personnel, ACSP. The CBA granted additional benefits like increased annual union leave, bereavement leave, free use of guest houses, service vehicle use, salary increments, additional uniform allowance, personal economic relief allowance, PERA, a one-time signing bonus, and distribution of the agreement to all ACSP members. However, the Governance Commission for Government-Owned and Controlled Corporations, GCG, opined that this CBA violated Section 9 of Executive Order, EO, No. 7, which imposed a moratorium on increases in salaries, allowances, incentives, and other benefits in GOCCs unless authorized by the President of the Philippines. The President did not grant such authority to CDC. Furthermore, the Bases Conversion Development Authority, BCDA, recommended deferring or renegotiating the CBA unless CDC could prove its financial sustainability. ACSP filed a complaint against CDC for failing to implement the CBA. The Accredited Voluntary Arbitrator, AVA, favored ACSP, citing the constitutional right to collective bargaining and presuming the President's approval based on the rule of liberal construction in favor of labor. The Court of Appeals, CA, affirmed this, stating that EO number 7 did not apply to CDC as a GOCC without original charter and to ACSP, comprising supervisory employees. It presumed the President's approval of additional benefits in line with labor-friendly principles. CDC then filed a petition for review on certiorari, arguing that the CBA's economic terms were invalid due to lack of presidential approval, non-compliance with GCG and BCDA recommendations, and inconsistency with Republic Act, RA, No. 10149, the GOCC Governance Act of 2011. ACSP countered that the CBA was negotiated consistent with employees' rights and that EO No. 7 and RA No. 10149 did not apply to their situation. Primary issue in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was tasked with determining the validity of the renegotiated CBA in light of the existing moratorium on salary and benefit increases in GOCCs as imposed by EO No. 7 and the provisions of RA No. 10149. Decision of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of CDC, finding that the economic terms of the renegotiated CBA were void for violating the law. It emphasized that government employees' right to collective bargaining is subject to limitations and only those terms not fixed by law can be negotiated. The court clarified that the moratorium under EO No. 7 broadly applied to all GOCCs, regardless of their charter status, and that any increases outside the Salary Standardization Law, SSL, tranches were prohibited. It also stated that the moratorium remained effective until specifically lifted by the President, which had not occurred. Additionally, RA No. 10149 removed the authority of GOCCs to determine their compensation system, requiring GCG development and presidential approval. As such, the court reversed the CA's decision and dismissed the complaint for lack of merit. Important doctrines discussed. 1. Limitations on government employees' collective bargaining rights. Government employees have the right to collective bargaining, but this right is subject to limitations, particularly concerning terms of employment fixed by law. 2. Moratorium on salary and benefit increases in GOCCs. EO No. 7 imposed a moratorium on increases in salaries, allowances, incentives, and other benefits in GOCCs, which remains effective until explicitly lifted by the President. 3. Role of the Governance Commission for GOCCs, GCG. Under RA No. 10149, the GCG has the authority to develop a compensation system for GOCCs, subject to presidential approval, thereby limiting the autonomous decision-making of individual GOCCs regarding employee compensation. 4. Principle of liberal construction in favor of labor. This principle applies when there are doubts in interpreting and implementing the provisions of the Labor Code and its rules. However, it does not override clear legislative directives or executive orders. 5. Non-applicability of executive orders based on GOCC charter status. Executive orders relating to salary and benefit moratoriums in GOCCs apply universally, regardless of whether the GOCC has an original charter or is incorporated under the Corporation Code. Did you know you can't get away with crime by faking crazy? Find out how one man's insanity defense failed when he tried using it to get a lighter sentence for stealing a car. Should mental illness really let lawbreakers off the hook? This is the case entitled Oligario Turalba y Villegas versus People of the Philippines, with GR number 216453, March 16, 2022.
This is the 32nd of the 160 cases decided by the Associate Justice Mario Lopez, chairman of the 2024 bar examination.
Facts of the case. On November 20, 2007, complainant Gregorio Calamag parked his Honda CR-V on the street with the keys left inside. After a few minutes, he saw his car being driven away by someone. He chased after the car while shouting that it was being carnapped. The car was eventually caught in traffic and Gregorio rushed to take hold of the driver, petitioner Oligario Turalba. The police arrived and arrested Oligario. He was found to be in possession of a knife. Oligario was charged with carnapping. During trial, he presented the testimony of Dr. Evangelista, who had met and evaluated him about a month prior. She found that Oligario was exhibiting symptoms of psychosis, possibly due to alcohol and drug use. She prescribed medication, but he failed to return for follow-up. The RTC convicted Oligario of carnapping. On appeal, the CA affirmed the conviction. His defense of insanity due to psychosis was not given credence due to insufficient proof that he exhibited such condition at the time of the incident.
Issue of the case. Whether Oligario's alleged insanity can exempt him from or mitigate his criminal liability.
Ruling of the case. The Supreme Court denied Oligario's petition and upheld his conviction. It ruled that he failed to prove the elements of insanity as a defense. The testimony of Dr. Evangelista was inconclusive as to his precise mental condition at the time of the carnapping. Also, no other witness accounted for any abnormal behavior by Oligario before or during the commission of the crime. Although some impairment, his actions showed he was conscious of the wrongfulness of the criminal act. As carnapping is penalized under a special law, the revised penal code provisions on mitigating circumstances also do not apply. Hence, his sentence of 14 years and 8 months as minimum to 17 years and 4 months as maximum was proper under the indeterminate sentence law. Important doctrines, principles. 1. Burden of proof for insanity defense is on the accused to show complete deprivation of intelligence or discernment at the time of the crime through clear and convincing evidence. 2. Rules on mitigating circumstances under RPC do not apply suppletorily to special laws like the anti-carnapping law. 3. Penalty for carnapping is 14 years 8 months minimum to 17 years 4 months maximum based on the indeterminate sentence law.
Was a seafarer denied medical aid and benefits after an on-job injury? Discover how Celestino fought for justice in a landmark case. Learn how the Supreme Court decided this case entitled Celestino M. Junio v. Pacific Ocean Manning Inc., Mega Chemical Tanker, and Erlinda S. Azucena, GR number 220657, March 16, 2022.
This is Case 33 of 160 cases decided by Associate Justice Mario Lopez, 2024 Philippine Bar Exam Chairman. Subscribe for more.
Facts of the case. Celestino M. Junio worked for Pacific Ocean Manning Inc., Pacific Manning, for 16 years. On January 24, 2011, he entered into a 9-month employment contract with Pacific Manning on behalf of its foreign principal, Mega Chemical Tanker, Mega Tanker, to serve as a fitter on board MCT Monte Rosa. He was medically examined and found fit for deployment on January 30, 2011. On June 15, 2011, Celestino was injured while working on the vessel. The hose of a hydraulic machine he was fixing accidentally detached and hit his left eye. He requested a medical examination, which was denied due to the vessel's departure schedule. Later, on September 11, 2011, Celestino collapsed while changing a fuel injector in the engine room. He was eventually referred to an offshore physician, Dr. Daniel Jenkins III, in Texas, USA. His diagnosis included a partial tear of the posterior retina, sinusitis, hyperlipidemia, and acute gastroduodenitis. Dr. Jenkins indicated that Celestino's illnesses were not work-related. Celestino was repatriated on September 21, 2011, and sought medical treatment from Pacific Manning, which was denied. Celestino then filed a complaint for payment of permanent total disability benefits, sickness allowance, damages, and attorney's fees against Pacific Manning and Megatanker. He consulted Dr. May S. Donato Tan 2 months later, who declared him unfit for duty as a seaman. Pacific Manning contended that Celestino's contract had ended, and his illnesses were not work-related, and he did not request a post-employment medical examination within 3 days of repatriation. The labor arbiter dismissed Celestino's complaint due to non-compliance with the mandatory 3-day reporting requirement for post-employment medical examination. The National Labor Relations Commission, NLRC, reversed the labor arbiter's decision and awarded disability benefits to Celestino, which was then reversed by the Court of Appeals, reinstating the labor arbiter's decision. Celestino appealed to the Supreme Court.
Primary issue in the Supreme Court. Is Celestino M. Junio entitled to permanent total disability benefits, despite the initial findings of the labor arbiter in Court of Appeals?
Decision of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of Celestino M. Junio. It was established that Celestino was medically repatriated and reported to Pacific Manning within 2 days of his return, fulfilling the POA-SEC's 3-day mandatory reporting requirement. The court found that Celestino's medical condition was work-related and arose during his employment contract term. The absence of a valid post-employment medical examination, due to the respondent's refusal to refer Celestino to a company-designated physician, could not bar his claim for disability benefits and sickness allowance. The court reinstated the NLRC's decision, awarding Celestino $60,000 in permanent total disability benefits, $2,792 in sickness allowance, attorney's fees, and legal interest. Important doctrines discussed. 1. Medical repatriation and employment contract terms. The court emphasized the importance of considering the unexpired portion of a seafarer's contract when assessing claims of medical repatriation, rejecting the employer's theory of a finished contract as a cause of repatriation. 2. POEA-SEC compliance and disability benefits. The court underscored the reciprocal nature of the requirements under the POEA-SEC, noting the obligation of both the seafarer to report for post-employment medical examination and the employer to conduct a meaningful and timely examination. 3. Work-related injury or illness. The court clarified the criteria for compensability of a seafarer's injury or illness, stressing that it must be work-related and exist during the term of the employment contract. 4. Permanent total disability benefits. The court ruled that the grant of permanent total disability benefits does not require a state of absolute helplessness but rather an inability to substantially pursue a seafarer's occupation without serious discomfort or risk.
But face harsh realities. Discover the shocking case of UR Employed International Corp. versus Pinmilieu. GR number 225263, promulgated on March 16, 2022.
This is the 34th case out of the 160 cases decided by Associate Justice Mario Lopez, chairperson of the 2024 Philippine Bar Examinations. Follow for more.
Facts of the case. On May 11, 2011, UR Employed International Corporation, UREIC, hired Mike A. Pinmilieu, Murphy P. Pasia, Simon M. Bastog, and Ryan D. Iochik as construction workers in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, Malaysia. The contract stipulated a 2-year duration with a monthly salary of Rm 800.00. Upon arrival in Malaysia, the workers' passports were confiscated. They were subjected to poor living conditions with overcrowding, inadequate sanitation, and ventilation. This led to frequent illness and spread of diseases among workers. Additionally, they were required to work beyond regular hours without extra pay. It was later discovered that they only had tourist visas and were being hidden due to lack of work permits. In August 2011, Ryan emailed the Baguio Midland Courier, describing their plight. Subsequently, in September 2011, they were informed of their termination and upcoming repatriation. However, repatriation was delayed until November 2011, during which their food supply was cut off. The workers filed a complaint for illegal dismissal and money claims against UREIC and Pamela Miguel, which was initially dismissed but later reinstated upon their motion. They alleged broken promises of good working conditions and sought payment for unexpired contracts, overtime pay, refunds, and damages. UREIC and Pamela Miguel denied these allegations, claiming the workers voluntarily resigned, except for Ryan, who was terminated for grave misconduct. They provided payslips to argue proper payment and refute claims of illegal deductions. The LA found the workers constructively dismissed due to intolerable working conditions. Ryan's dismissal was deemed hasty and lacking due process. Monetary claims were awarded for placement fee reimbursements, back wages, damages, and attorney's fees, though some claims like overtime pay were unsubstantiated. The NLRC affirmed this decision. UREIC's subsequent appeal to the CA was dismissed, emphasizing the relaxation of technical rules in labor proceedings and the substantial evidence supporting a legal dismissal.
Legal issue. Did the Court of Appeals err in affirming the decision of the National Labor Relations Commission, NLRC, and Labor Arbiter, LA, regarding the illegal dismissal and monetary claims of the construction workers employed by Employed International Corporation in Malaysia?
Supreme Court's decision. The Supreme Court found the petition lacking merit. It clarified that the doctrine of primary jurisdiction did not apply as the issues before the LA and POEA were distinct, with the former addressing illegal dismissal and money claims, and the latter concerning administrative disciplinary liability. The immutability of judgments doctrine was also inapplicable as the Dole's order did not pertain to the illegal dismissal issue. The court affirmed the factual findings of the LA, NLRC, and CA, ruling that the petitioners illegally dismissed the respondents. The factual findings were consistent across the labor agencies and the CA, and thus were respected and deemed final by the Supreme Court. Legal doctrines of the case. 1. Constructive dismissal, recognized when working conditions are so unbearable that they effectively force an employee to resign. In this case, poor living and working conditions constituted constructive dismissal. 2. Doctrine of primary jurisdiction. It applies where a claim initially falls within the court's jurisdiction but requires resolution of issues placed under the special competence of an administrative body. This doctrine was found inapplicable here as the issues before the LA and POEA were distinct.
3. Immutability of judgments. Once a judgment becomes final, it is immutable and unalterable. The court found this doctrine inapplicable as the Dole's order did not pertain to the issue of illegal dismissal addressed by the LA.
Four. Relaxation of technical rules in labor proceedings. In labor cases, technical rules of procedure are often relaxed to ensure fair opportunity for the parties to defend their rights. The CA stressed this principle in affirming the LA and NLRC's decisions.
5. Can a notarized land sale deed be voided for lack of payment? See how a family dispute over a Quezon City property tests legal boundaries. Find out how the Supreme Court decided in this case entitled, Felix Chinco v. Faustino Chinco, GR number 244076, date of promulgation, March 16, 2022.
This is the 35th case out of the 160 cases decided by Associate Justice Mario Lopez, chairperson of the 2024 Philippine Bar Examinations. Follow for more.
Facts of the case. Faustino and Gloria Chinco were the registered owners of a parcel of land in Quezon City, covered by Transfer Certificate of Title, TCT, number 8283. In 1990, Faustino allowed his brother Felix to occupy the property. Subsequently, at their mother Tan Po Chu's request, Faustino signed an undated deed of sale in favor of Felix. Tan Po Chu assured Faustino that the deed was only to appease Felix, who was struggling with alcoholism. Felix claimed that he had been in possession of the property since 1989 and purchased it from Faustino in 1994 for $3,130,000. Both parties signed the deed of sale before a notary public, but Faustino refused to surrender the TCT, preventing Felix from transferring it to his name. Felix later found that Faustino had mortgaged the property to a bank, leading Felix to file a complaint for specific performance with damages. The Regional Trial Court, RTC, ruled in favor of Felix, recognizing the validity of the notarized deed of sale. However, the Court of Appeals, CA, reversed this decision, giving weight to Tan Po Chu's testimony that the deed was signed only to appease Felix and was not intended as a genuine sale. The CA held that the contract was void for lack of consideration, as Felix failed to prove payment of the purchase price.
Legal issue of the case. Did the Court of Appeals err in its decision by giving credence to Tan Po Chu's testimony and declaring the deed of absolute sale void for lack of consideration, thereby reversing the RTC's decision?
Supreme Court's decision. The Supreme Court reversed the CA's decision. It held that the notarized deed of sale is presumed regular and authentic. The court found that the CA's reliance on Tan Po Chu's testimony to overturn this presumption was misplaced. Her testimony was deemed insufficient to counter the presumption of the deed's regularity, especially since she was not part of its preparation or aware of its terms. The Supreme Court emphasized that the evaluation of witnesses is best done by the trial court, which has the advantage of observing their demeanor. It concluded that Faustino was aware of the contents of the deed of sale and intended to be bound by it. The court also clarified that failure to prove payment of the purchase price does not render a contract void, as non-payment of an obligation does not affect the validity of a contract. Therefore, the Supreme Court reinstated the RTC's decision, ruling in favor of Felix and Rosita Chinko. Important doctrines. 1. Presumption of regularity of notarized documents. A notarized document carries with it the presumption of regularity, authenticity, and due execution, which can only be overturned by clear, convincing, and more than preponderant evidence. Two. Role of trial court in witness evaluation. The evaluation of witnesses and their testimonies is best undertaken by the trial court due to its unique position to observe the witnesses firsthand. 3. Contractual intent and knowledge. Individuals who sign a contract are presumed to know its contents, especially if they have caused its preparation.
4. Difference between non-payment and lack of consideration. A contract is not rendered void due to the non-payment of consideration. Non-payment pertains to the fulfillment of an obligation under a valid contract, whereas lack of consideration pertains to the validity of the contract itself.
5. Authenticity of written agreements. The written terms of a contract are given primacy unless challenged with clear and convincing evidence, especially in the case of notarized documents.